Now roars into life. Welcome along to the 73rd World Championship Italian Grand Prix at a racetrack that has staged more F1 Grand Prix and races than any other on the Formula One calendar. It's the Autodromo Internazionale Monza, 3.6 miles long, and where 17 of the fastest 18 races in F1 history have been held, where you take your lap distance at full throttle for 83% of the lap, where there are only 11 corners, 4 to the left and 7 to the right, and a maximum speed of over 200 miles an hour. This is last year's race. Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, the two championship contenders, colliding at the first chicane and both taking themselves out of the race. We move on to the Curva Grande. Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc wheel to wheel around this famous corner at over 150 miles an hour. Norris ahead of Leclerc. Can he do that from third on the grid today? And back to 2021, this is Lewis Hamilton into turn 4, the Rogier chicane on Lando Norris, and getting that overtaking move right. But you've got to be very, very careful, and the gravel trap is waiting for you. 3 tyre compounds for this race, which should be a one-stop race. The hard is the C2, good enough for 45 laps of hard racing, say Pirelli. The medium is the C3, and the soft is the C4. Expect most to be using the soft at some stage. And here's the grid then, which has been altered quite substantially since qualifying finished due to the amounts of grid penalty places for those taking new engine parts. Yuki Tsunoda and Lewis Hamilton amongst them. Hamilton 3 podiums and 8 starts from that far back. Carlos Sainz got his maiden podium from 20th on the grid in Brazil 2019. He lines up alongside Mick Schumacher, and Schumacher's teammate Kevin Magnussen 1 place ahead with Valtteri Bottas alongside him. Esteban Ocon and Sergio Perez line up side by side. And ahead of those, Lance Stroll, the lowest driver without a penalty from qualifying yesterday. Sebastian Vettel, his teammate alongside him. Nicholas Latifi in the top 10 for only the 3rd time in his career. Starts alongside Zhou Guanyu, equaling his best ever start. It's an all-Dutch, all-world champion, 4th row. Nick de Vries, the Formula E champion, alongside the F1 champion Max Verstappen. Fernando Alonso starts 6th in his 349th Grand Prix alongside Pierre Gasly. And then it's the 2 McLarens. Lando Norris 3rd, last year's race winner Daniel Ricciardo starts in 4th, his best start since Monza last year. And the front row, George Russell, a 2nd top 3 start for him this season, and a pole position for the 8th time this year for Charles Leclerc. It's lights out and away we go. It's a good reaction from Charles Leclerc. It's a better reaction from George Russell, though. And Russell already alongside that Ferrari with Daniel Ricciardo ahead of Pierre Gasly, and Norris has lost places. Into the first corner we go. Charles Leclerc ahead of George Russell, who gets pinched and has to go over the rumble strips. Comes back on behind the Ferrari, and also going off Zhou Guanyu and Kevin Magnussen. The crowd roaring as the Ferrari leads them through the Curva Grande. And that's Max Verstappen right on the tail of Pierre Gasly. So Leclerc's coming in, Ted, and Mercedes are waiting for George Russell. George Russell is making his way down the main straight, so they've done the opposite as it's now. Parabolica, not easy to follow close to the car in front, even with the changes in downforce and turbulent air this season. 35 metres it was. Verstappen is gaining. It's Vettel, who has found a gap but in the arm coat to stop his car by. He is out of this race, and there's an Aston Martin stranded by the track.
Stop the car, please, when it's safe. Stop the car when it's safe.
So will they consider putting out a safety car, which will then mean we get a lot of pit stops?
Daniel Ricciardo got a problem? Yes, he has.
I lost the engine.
I think Lewis Hamilton retired at that very point. Now we are going to get a safety car. Safety car, he wins the Italian Grand Prix. He will stand on the podium at Monza for the first time in his Formula One career.
Very lovely, mate. Great race set again.
It finished behind the safety car. It perhaps was an unsatisfactory ending for many, as we like to see action all the way to the checkered flag, but Red Bull and Max Verstappen won't mind that at all. It's another win on their seemingly unstoppable march to a world title or two in 2022.
Race car possible, and I think it paid off today because we were good on the tires. I think straight away, of course, after my clean lap one, we were really in the race, and I could see we had more pace than Ferrari, and that was of course the most important for us. And then they opted to do a little bit of a different strategy, and that really paid off for us.
Not happy. I mean, I think the pace was strong today. Max was also really strong, but as we expected, to be honest. And then we stopped on that first virtual safety car, which unfortunately ended when we were in the pits. So we lost half of probably the gain that we normally have stopping in the virtual safety car. And from that moment onwards, we knew the race would be very difficult.
So yeah, it was a pretty long, lonely race. Pace wasn't good. It wasn't the most enjoyable one for sure. But as I said on the radio, we're scoring these podiums when the car's fast. We're scoring them when the car isn't fast, and we've got to be satisfied with that at least.